Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. This week's episode, we are going to cover the perfect ultralight and comfort gear list for the John Muir Trail. Stay tuned. This is the gear that I took with me on the John Muir Trail. That's 13.5 pound base weight that enabled me to have a smoother, lighter, and way more enjoyable experience. Whether you're a seasoned backpacker or somebody who's just beginning, your gear can make all the difference. So stick around because this gear list is going to help your trip feel effortless and be unforgettable. All right, friends. Hey, before we get into this gear list, I just want to make sure that a few things are understood. First off, I'm not sponsored by any gear company. Nobody's ever reached out to me to do a review. So while I'll maybe speak a little bit about some of this equipment, just know I bought all of it myself. As we get into this gear list, again, gear is going to be subjective. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's going to think that one piece or another may be better or worse. So the first thing to do is understand my opinions are my own, and that's based on some of the experiences that I've had, but your mileage may vary, as they say. So you may have had different experiences with the same gear that didn't work for you, but did for me, or vice versa. So I'll cover my gear list here shortly, and then I'll go over some of the thoughts that I've had on some of those pieces, things that I would not bring again, things that I would bring again, or additional things that I felt like I missed. But to be honest, there's not much. I felt like what I brought was perfect, and there's not really anything that I was missing along the trail. So without keeping you waiting, let's get into that list. Hey, future Colby here. I will make sure to add in the weights of each of these items, both in terms of ounces, as well as in grams, as we're the weird ones that want to use a different system of measurement. So that'll be in there, and then at the end we can kind of total that up and we'll go over the full base weight. Okay, so let's get into the gear that I packed for the John Muir Trail. Starting with the big three. My backpack is the Z-Packs Arc Haul 60 liter pack made out of Ultra 100 fabric. I had no hip belts on this and carried a water bottle sleeve on my shoulders. Next up is the Enlightened Equipment Enigma sleeping quilt. This is the 20 degree regular wide with 850 fill power down. For my sleeping pad, I use the Thermarest NeoAir X-Lite NXT, the Max in regular wide, so that's the 25-inch wide and the 72-inch long pad. And then the Trekology 2.0 pillow. I also carried with me this Outdoor Vitals 1/8 inch closed cell foam pad. And then finally, for my tent, I used the Z-Packs Altiplex in olive drab, and this is with the normal floor. I used 10 Easton Nano 9-inch tent stakes, and those are sitting in a Hartford Gear DCF bag. Moving on to my cook kit, I had the Toaks Titanium 750 milliliter pot. I carried the Toaks long handle spoon as well, a BRS 3000 stove with mini Bic lighter, a Swedish cloth, and a red bandana. Next up is the Bear Vault BV500 bear canister. And then to my water system, I carried the Katadyn Be-Free water filter with 2 smart water bottles with sports caps on them. Moving on to my poop kit. My poop kit is in a Space Bear bag. I use the Bogler trowel, a Kula cloth, a Holy Hiker bidet, a plastic bottle here with Summit Suds powdered soap in it. These plastic bottles are great. And then I filled this full of that powdered soap, and one bottle lasted the entire 14 days plus some for me and my son. So plenty, it's a great option there. Coming up here, these are all the items that I carried in my Dity bag. This unpaste toothpaste tabs. I carried a bamboo toothbrush and anywhere from 3 to 5 interdental floss brushes. I've got a little retainer that I've got to clean out that's in my mouth. I've got over here a repair kit that has some DCF strips, some tenacious and Leuco tape, a mini Victorinox Swiss Army knife, and another mini Bic lighter. In my first aid kit down here, I had a number of different Band-Aids, and then in another one of those plastic bottles, I put in some pills, both Motrin, which is my pain medicine of choice, as well as some antihistamines and antidiarrheal. Moving down to my electronics, I carried the Nightcore Carbo 20,000 milliamp charger, an InCharge 5-in-1 charger, which can do everything from USB-A, C, lightning adapter, or adapter into an Apple phone, as well as the mini USB port. An Anker PowerPort 3 with 65 watts, a Nightcore NU25 headlamp, my Garmin InReach Mini 2, my Apple iPhone 13 Pro Max with a magnetic wallet. What's not shown here, I did have my primary camera was an Insta360 X3. I just ended up selling that, so it's not here. But with that, I had the 85 centimeter selfie stick, the magnetic selfie stick holder. I had 2 batteries for that camera as well as 2 micro SD cards. Okay, now for the clothing I packed. First, my puffy is the Enlightened Equipment Torrid Apex jacket in extra large. For my mid layer, the Senshi Designs Alpha 60 Crew, which is an amazing piece of equipment. I love this thing and never was cold. An Outdoor Vitals Altitude Performance short sleeve t-shirt, a buff, and just some normal black fleece gloves. For my rain jacket, I had the Enlightened Equipment Visp rain jacket, an alpaca wool beanie, I'm not sure the maker of that. And then for pants, the Outdoor Vitals Skyline Trail Joggers. Now for the gear that I wore, first is my Nike Dry Fit BYU hat, Go Cougs. Ombra's classic armless sunglasses. I wore an Outdoor Research Echo Sun hoodie large in this pebble color. I may choose a different color in the future as that got pretty dirty and you could tell it got dirty. I am a fanny pack fan, and so I used the Hyperlight Mountain Gear Versa fanny pack. This is a 2.5 liter size in white. Inside of that, I carried my Apple corded headphones. I like corded versus Bluetooth because I don't want to have any more battery items that I need to charge, and corded is just easier for me. A Peak Designs everyday mobile phone case, a Peak Designs mobile tripod, which was great for taking photos with my phone, and then an Insta360 mini tripod. I would also carry most of my day's worth of food and snacks in that fanny pack, which was just fantastic. Moving down, I hiked in the Nike Challenger 5-inch shorts with a liner. If you have chafing problems, a liner is absolutely fantastic. I didn't have a single chafing problem on 14 straight days. I wore the Exo Toes toe socks the majority of the time, and that's what I will switch to for sure all the time moving forward. And then I wore the Topo Athletic Pursuits. I hot glued Velcro on the back of them, which worked out just great so that I could attach my Dirty Girl gaiters. And for trekking poles, I used the Diorite Gear carbon fiber trekking pole, and with these I chose the EVA foam versions. All right, friends, so that's gear. A couple things to talk about. So what I would say is all-star gear, things that was just amazing for us. And first and foremost would be our backpacks. I know that's not maybe the sexy answer, but Ethan, my son, and I both used the Arc Halls. His was a little smaller and a different color, but they were fantastic. And really the unsung hero. They carried our weight fabulously. We didn't have any issues with it tearing or breaking. And honestly, like day in and day out, never noticed any uncomfortability with them. And not a thing that you maybe think about all the time, but when you don't think about it and it's not an issue, you know it's really good. So those packs were fantastic for us. I think at the heaviest when we left EVR with full 7 days of food in the bear can with 2 liters of water filled up. Mine was sitting at like 32 pounds and I think Ethan's was around 33 or 34 pounds. The other thing I think we would mention is our tents. We both used Z-Packs tents. Again, I used the Altaplex, he used the Plex Solo. And the fact that those things are just as light as they are, and they are just fine. They're perfect tents. To have a tent that weighs a little less than a pound, and in Ethan's case, 13 ounces, that performs as well as almost any other tent on the market is such a huge advantage. Now, of course, it's not a freestanding tent, and you've got to use the trekking pole, at least one. But again, it was just an advantage to have such a lightweight tent in our pack that performed exceptionally well in the conditions that we were in. Ethan wanted to say that another all-star piece of gear for him was a chair. So he carried the Heathen Hawks Chair Zero the entire trip. We kind of poked fun at him a little bit for it. And then, you know, Trevor, Mike, and I at different times throughout the trail were pretty jealous of him having that chair. And he'd set it up at camp and just enjoyed using it. And he has no problem carrying that thing. I think it's maybe a pound, slightly less than a pound, but he loved carrying it and had no problem with it. So all-star pieces of gear, I would maybe even consider the Senchi Designs Alpha 60 Crew as another piece of gear that was amazing. I just loved that thing. It just kept me warm all the time. And as I've worn it, even post JMT, I have never been cold. And we do a lot of winter kind of snowshoeing, kind of hiking here. And I'll use that quite a bit. And it's just been a fantastic layer. I also use that as an aid to my pillow. So I'll throw some B-roll here, but I would take my Trekology 2.0 pillow, I would put my buff over the top of it, and then I would stuff that Alpha Direct Senchi Design layer underneath it to prop that up a little bit, to give my head a little bit more room, or that neck area in my head a little more room, as I am a side sleeper. So man, just a lot of different uses. When it wasn't cold, that's how I used it. So again, all-star gear, absolutely fantastic. That made our list. And subsequently, any gear mistakes that we made, honestly, no, like there's nothing that I would look at and say it was either a mistake that we brought this or it was a mistake because we didn't bring something. Again, this is the absolute perfect gear list for me, for us, my son and I on this trip. It just was everything we needed, and a few luxury items as well, which were nice. The one thing, if I wanted to pick out one thing, I would say it was the camera that I took. the Insta360 X3, and that's not a diss on the camera itself, more my skill set. I am not somebody who understands videography, cameras, how they work. I'm learning as I'm trying to do this, and I have a different camera now that I'm using, but I just didn't understand it well enough. I shot a lot of the footage in the Insta360's version of like a D-Log, and then I color graded it in the Insta360 editing software versus what I use now, which is DaVinci Resolve. And I think that made some of the footage from that series look a little funny. So kind of a nitpicky item, but if I was to do it again, I might choose a different camera, or probably would have just done a better job at familiarizing myself with what a camera does, how it works, the resolution, the frame rate, you know, those things that are important if you're really trying to make some really nice footage. So, but again, as far as mistakes with gear on this trip, this was just the perfect gear list for us. All right, friends, so let's wrap this up here. So we've been through the gear list, lots of great gear that we had and really appreciated. And really from a poor choices standpoint, I don't think we made any poor choices on this trip. So if you're looking at potentially using gear, if you're looking at upgrading some gear, hopefully what I've provided here is helpful for you. I know that there are so many options and so many opinions, and I could go into a deeper dive into almost every piece of gear in here, but that would be a pretty long and maybe not that interesting of a video. If you think that there is some value to that, please, comment or let me know. If there is any gear that you really love that has been absolutely impactful on your adventures, or mistakes that you've made with gear, feel free to comment below and let us know so that we can all learn. So the final numbers when we look at this, and I'll add my Pack Wizard link here. So similar to a lighter packs, Pack Wizard is just the one that I use, so you can see. But my base weight for this trip, including carrying a 40-ounce bear canister, 12.94 pounds. My worn equipment was a little over 5 pounds, and that was with some of my electronics, which I carried with me in my fanny pack. Consumables were about 1/2 pound. So my total weight on this trip, minus food, fuel, and water, was 18.61 pounds in totality. Again, that's with the gear I'm wearing and everything else. So my base weight again is 12.94 pounds. I'll just add there what it was in grams and kilograms as well. So there we go. That was the in my mind, the perfect comfort and ultralight gear list that made the John Muir Trail such an enjoyable, memorable, and incredible experience for us. Again, I am not sponsored by any gear company. Nobody asks for anything. I do have some affiliate links below for some of the gear on Amazon. That does not increase the cost to you if you click on it, but will give a little bit of a kickback to me if I'm a channel that you'd like to support, or if you're looking at this gear anyway, but no pressure whatsoever. And so as we wrap up, if any of this has been helpful for you, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd be super grateful for it. Otherwise, if you are curious about hiking the John Muir Trail and want to avoid some common mistakes, please check out this video here, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.